USPS stole my time, my stuff, and my patience, so I sent them a gift, a subpoena. It started with a birthday gift for my mother. After hours of searching for the perfect present, I finally found it. A vintage brooch from her favorite designer that perfectly matched the one she'd lost years ago. The kind of gift that would bring tears to her eyes. I paid extra for priority shipping to ensure it would arrive in time for her birthday dinner. 3 days, they promised. 3 days. A week passed. Nothing. I checked the tracking number obsessively. In transit, it said. Always in transit. Never moving, never updating. Just suspended in some digital limbo while my mother's birthday came and went. I called the local post office and got transferred 5 times before someone finally told me, "Sir, according to our system, your package is still in transit. Please be patient." Patient? I'd already given them a week beyond their promised delivery date. I explained the situation, that this was a special gift, irreplaceable, and now my mother's birthday had passed without it. "I understand your frustration," said the voice on the other end, clearly reading from a script. "But there's nothing we can do until the package is scanned at our facility." I took a deep breath. "When will that be?" "I don't have that information, sir." Another week passed. The tracking still showed in transit. I visited my local post office in person, waited in line for 45 minutes, only to be told the exact same thing. The woman behind the counter seemed genuinely sympathetic but ultimately helpless. "Sometimes packages get stuck in a sorting facility," she explained. "It could be at the regional distribution center. They're severely understaffed right now." I nodded, trying to maintain my composure. "Is there someone I can contact there?" She shook her head. "They don't take direct calls from customers, but I can put in an inquiry for you." I thanked her and left, feeling the weight of frustration settling heavy on my shoulders as I walked back to my car under the gray October sky. The autumn wind carried the smell of rain and my own growing sense of powerlessness. 3 days later, I received an automated email. "We've investigated your missing package claim. According to our records, your item is still in transit. Please allow additional time for delivery." Additional time? It had been nearly 3 weeks since I shipped a package that was supposed to take 3 days. My mother had already returned home after her birthday visit, with nothing but my embarrassed explanation and a promise that something special was coming soon. That night, as I sat at my kitchen table staring at that useless tracking number, something inside me shifted. This wasn't just about a late package anymore. This was about a system that had taken my money, my time, and now my peace of mind, while offering nothing in return but automated responses and scripted apologies. I opened my laptop and began to research. If USPS couldn't find my package, then perhaps I needed to find someone who could make them look harder. The next morning, I called USPS customer service again. This time, I took detailed notes, names, times, reference numbers, creating the paper trail I now knew would be essential. The representative, Marcus, sounded tired before our conversation even began. "I see you've already filed an inquiry," he said after looking up my tracking number. "Unfortunately, there's no new information. I'd like to file a formal complaint," I replied, my voice steady. The mere mention of those words changed his tone. "I can transfer you to our Consumer Affairs Department," he offered quickly. 20 minutes on hold later, I spoke with a woman named Diane who explained the complaint process. I would need to fill out a specific form, provide proof of mailing, value, and detailed information about the contents. "And then what happens?" I asked. "Once we receive your complaint, we'll conduct a thorough investigation." "How long will that take?" "Typically 4 to 6 weeks. I felt a twinge of disbelief. 6 more weeks? The package was already supposed to be delivered 3 weeks ago. "I understand your frustration, sir," she said, echoing the refrain I'd heard so many times already. That afternoon, I visited the post office again, this time with a formal request for proof of mailing and insurance claim forms. The line stretched nearly to the door, elderly customers leaning on canes, parents trying to corral restless children. All of us united in our need for services that seemed deliberately designed to test our patience. When I finally reached the counter, I explained what I needed. The clerk, A different one this time. Typed my tracking number into his computer. "That's strange," he muttered, frowning at his screen. My heart skipped. "What's strange?" "According to this, your package was delivered last Tuesday. There's a signature and everything." I stared at him. "Delivered where? To whom?" He turned his monitor so I could see. There it was. "Delivered, 2:38 p.m., front desk/reception. "I never received this package," I said. "And I don't have a front desk or reception. I live in a house." He shrugged, uncomfortable with my rising agitation. "The system shows it was delivered to your zip code. Maybe it went to a neighbor." I spent the next 2 days knocking on doors in my neighborhood. No one had my package. I called customer service again and was told they would have the delivery driver check their records. 3 more days passed without any callback. I filed the formal complaint online, attaching photos of the receipt, the original listing of the brooch, and a timeline of all my interactions with USPS. The automated response thanked me for my submission and promised a response within 4 to 6 weeks. Rain tapped against my windows that night as I sat in my home office, surrounded by printouts of postal regulations, consumer protection laws, and delivery guarantees. The more I researched, the more I realized that my experience wasn't unusual. Forums and review sites were filled with similar stories. Valuable packages lost, customer service dead ends, complaints that disappeared into bureaucratic black holes. But I also found something else. Stories of people who had fought back and won. People who had navigated the labyrinth and emerged with resolutions. The common thread? They had escalated beyond the standard channels. They had refused to be just another complaint number. As lightning flashed outside, illuminating my wall of research, I made a decision. If USPS wouldn't respond to their own procedures, perhaps they would respond to legal ones. I'm not a lawyer. Before this, my legal experience was limited to signing rental agreements and getting out of jury duty once. But necessity is a powerful teacher, and the loss of my package had awakened something in me. A stubbornness, yes, but also a newfound appreciation for the intricacies of consumer rights. My first stop was the public library, where I found myself in the legal reference section, surrounded by thick volumes of consumer protection statutes. The librarian, Elena, noticed my overwhelmed expression. "First-time legal researcher?" she asked with a knowing smile. I nodded, explaining my situation. "You might want to start with small claims court information," she suggested, guiding me to a specific shelf. "And there's a free legal aid clinic here every Thursday evening. Might be worth stopping by." Thursday couldn't come fast enough. I arrived at the clinic 30 minutes early, clutching my folder of documentation. The volunteer attorney, Mr. Ramirez, listened patiently as I laid out my case. USPS has some specific protections as a government agency, he explained, but that doesn't mean you're without options. Their own regulations require them to honor insurance claims and investigate lost packages. They say it was delivered, but it wasn't, I said. And now they're making me wait 6 more weeks just to hear back on my complaint. He nodded thoughtfully. Have you considered filing a claim in small claims court? Sometimes the mere act of serving them with papers can motivate action. The word serving triggered something in my memory. Would that involve a subpoena? It could, he said, especially if you need records of where the package actually went or who signed for it. For the next 2 weeks, I became a part-time legal student. I learned about certified mail return receipts, discovered the differences between small claims procedures in different jurisdictions, and mastered the art of drafting formal legal communications. My dining room table disappeared under stacks of printouts and sticky notes. I filed my small claims case against USPS at the county courthouse on a crisp November morning. The clerk who processed my paperwork raised her eyebrows slightly as she reviewed it. Not many people go after the post office, she remarked. They don't give many people a choice, I replied. The process of legally serving a government agency is complicated, but I followed the instructions precisely. Certified mail, return receipt requested, addressed exactly as the court guidelines specified, and in that envelope was my gift to them, a subpoena requesting all tracking data, scan records, and delivery information related to my package. As I dropped the envelope into the collection box, yes, I still had to use USPS to serve USPS. I felt a strange mix of anxiety and satisfaction. The system that had ignored my calls, emails, and visits would now have to acknowledge me in a language they couldn't ignore, the language of legal obligation. 3 days after I served the subpoena, ironically, right on schedule, my phone rang. The caller ID displayed a Washington, D.C. area code. "Hello, this is Rachel Williams from the USPS Legal Department," said a crisp, professional voice. "I'm calling regarding your small claims filing." My heart raced, but I kept my voice steady. "Yes, thank you for calling. We've received your subpoena and reviewed your case. It appears there was an error in the delivery confirmation system. Your package was scanned as delivered, but was actually misrouted to a business address with a similar street name." I sat down, taking a moment to process this information. "So you know where my package is?" "We've located it at our regional recovery center. It was returned as undeliverable from the incorrect address. I see it's insured for $340. We're prepared to issue you a full refund plus the shipping costs and an additional $50 for the inconvenience." "The item was a gift," I explained. "A vintage piece that I spent weeks finding. Is the package itself recoverable?" There was a pause, followed by keyboard clicking. "Let me check. Yes, the package is intact. We can have it delivered to you by tomorrow with signature confirmation. Would that be acceptable?" The next day, a postal supervisor personally delivered my package. The brooch was exactly as I had purchased it, nestled in its velvet box. He also handed me an envelope containing a check for the shipping costs and the promised $50. "We're very sorry for the inconvenience," he said, looking genuinely apologetic. "Your case has actually prompted a review of our misdelivery protocols." I thanked him, and as I closed the door, I felt a complex emotion that wasn't quite satisfaction, nor was it vindication. It was the weight of 3 months of frustration finally lifting. That weekend, I drove 2 hours to deliver the brooch to my mother in person. When she opened it, her eyes lit up exactly as I'd imagined they would back when I first purchased it. She clasped it to her blouse immediately, admiring it in the mirror. "It's perfect," she said, "but you didn't have to go through so much trouble." I smiled, thinking about the countless phone calls, the hours of research, the legal documents, and finally the resolution. "It was worth it," I told her. "Some things are worth fighting for." On the drive home, with the autumn leaves swirling across the highway, I reflected on what this experience had taught me. Not just about the postal service or legal procedures, but about perseverance. About the power of paperwork properly deployed. About systems that count on your frustration to outlast your determination. Sometimes, when a system fails you, the only way forward is to learn its rules better than it knows them itself. My subpoena hadn't just been a legal document. It had been a message. I refused to be ignored. As I pulled into my driveway, I noticed a USPS truck making deliveries on my street. The carrier waved and I waved back. No hard feelings. The system had failed, but people had eventually made it right. And somewhere in a USPS training room, I like to think my case file might now be used as an example of why you should never underestimate a customer with time, tenacity, and access to a law library.